Welcome to CanAngelsFlyTarot and more. Wow. Excuse me. While I'm not live. If you're new to my channel, my name is Nancy. As mentioned, this is a tarot channel, and I am a professional tarot reader. So you can always feel free to contact me at my email if you're interested in your own personal tarot reading. My email is canangelsfly1@gmail.com. Once you've viewed my content, if you like it, please, offer me a thumbs up. I hope that you subscribe, and I also hope you share me with someone that you know. And if you subscribe, remember to tap the bell so you can maybe receive notifications whenever I go live. Now, at the beginning of every live stream, I submit my personal plugs. That gives the health of the live stream time to correct itself. Every time I go live, the health of the live stream is poor or in critical condition, and it takes a couple of minutes for it to correct itself, which it just did. And so we're in the green, so I assume that we should have a smooth sailing from here. Tonight, I'm here to move and decode some of the Christian art that I was exposed to when I was in school. If you follow me, you may already know that I went to school as an art history major. Who knew? Who knew? So in this live stream, I won't be answering any tarot questions. I will be showing art. Oh, you know what I forgot to put on here? I'm going to put it on here now. Hello, whomever's in the house. I'm going to put it here. I don't know if I did it right or not. I gave myself a headache. But to try to cover myself, I always add a little something new to the channel, to my channel, hoping that you can find something here that is intriguing to you. Let's see. I really don't know how this is going to go. Where is it at? I lost it. I found it on the keyboard. Oh, when you don't type in a long time. That's wrong. Where is it? Oh, wrong key. I think that's correct. I'm going to do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to do another. I'm going to do it like this. At least I have, if needed, I can maybe have an argument if I ever catch any more copyright strikes that I did my best. I did my best. Was there another? I think there was another one. It was... I did that one. Oh, I'm going to add this one too. Ain't got time for nobody mess. Is that correct? That's correct. That's wrong. Okay. Hi, Rise and Vibrations. How are you tonight? I'm trying to cover myself. I don't know if I'm doing it correctly. I had to figure out another time. You'll see what I'm talking about in just a minute. I think there's something wrong. Oh, I see. No, not that. Okay, I think that's it. I don't know. I know what I'm going to do. Doing something. I am doing something. That's 2, 3, 4, 5. Make it look good. Okay. Guess I'll try to make it look a little decent. We'll see what happens. That needs to be able to be read. Thank you. How are you? Again, Rise Vibrations, thank you for your generosity. You're always so kind to me. Oh, gosh. Can I get there? Will life let me get there and make corrections? Or tell you, when you can't see, it's hard. And I tell you everything on my TV, but I still can't see. I still can't see, and won't let me get back. Okay. Hopefully that is correct. I'll put it right here. All of those codes that let it be known that none of the artwork that I will be sharing during this live is mine. I have not, I guess they will consider altered. I don't know. Since I wrote on top of it. It's a, I am sure enough here. Gotta get up early, but will listen as I fall asleep. Okay, agreed. I do that most nights. Good evening and happy as well. Ways to see you go live. Thank you so much. Okay, now again, during this live stream I won't be reading any tarot and answering any burning questions or anything like that. This is just like a somewhat of a new category that I'm adding on to this channel, CanAngelsFlyTarot and more, temporarily. I do plan to get up the nerve to move over to my alternate channel, which is Heaven's Vital Fire. Please locate that channel and subscribe there, because I do believe that I found my niche for that channel. And what it will be about over there primarily will be about looking at historical, oh goodness, fly swatter over there. The same fly still in my room. I can't catch it. It won't land. It's like super flat. Oh, super flat. Anyway, I digress. I'm all over the place. When I move over, well, I'm not going to move over. I will be using both channels, I do believe. As soon as I get up the nerve, because I don't have, a following over there. I had a few subscribers, but not many. And I don't like to do work and it just sits there idly. So again, I invite you to go over to Heaven's Vital Fire and subscribe over there as well. Over there, the kind of work I'm going to do tonight is the kind of work most likely I'll be doing over there. I got to refine the details. Tonight we will be looking at or decoding some historical artwork. Excuse me, I've been working on this all day and I'd have made a big mess. But I would like to do it. I want to explore. Let's see. I guess the first thing I can put is this picture here. Every picture has, every artwork that I show here, I retrieve from Wikipedia. And so none of it is mine. I didn't write the year down. I'm not going to stress out. The works that I will be sharing tonight are related to the storyline of the acclaimed Jesus Christ. Today, while I was just sitting minding my business, I started, kind of receiving downloads about the story of Jesus Christ. Now, I'm not trying to convert anybody. This is not about religion. This is about our ascension process and our awakening process. And so what I'm attempting to do for the first time in this live stream is to show visuals that span back over 100 years, to show that what we are going through today is something that was known of centuries ago. None of this is new. And so I'm starting with this painting that you see here. And the painting is the Nativity. The title is there, the Nativity at Night. And you see who the artist is. You can always Google the person. It's all on Wikipedia. And so why am I starting with the Nativity? I'm starting with the Nativity because that is the moment that Jesus Christ was supposed to be born. At least that's the story I was told when I went to church. And today my mind went back to those old stories. Not only did it go back to those old stories, it went back to when I was in school studying art history. And when I was studying art history, we were taught to, interpret art in a particular manner. But since I have become more enlightened, I'll say, since that time, I looked at the artwork through a new lens or through a new filter. And so during this live stream, I'm just going to interpret or decode some of the imagery of past times to show that what we're going through today is something that has always been known of. The church indirectly informed the congregation or its followers or Christians. And it's not just, I can't say it's just Christianity, because when I studied art history, I did not just concentrate on a particular era or culture, so I was exposed to a lot of different cultures and religions and, just everything. And so what I saw then was that there was always this commonality across all continents, across all cultures. Even the story that I'm about to show and tell about the life story of Jesus Christ is one that even can be found in mythology and different things like that. It's just that humanity, the people that created humanity over the last few centuries were not awakened in order to be enlightened to what would soon take place. And so, the first picture, the nativity scene. Let me talk about what the nativity scene was about. If you're not, Christian and you haven't followed, the Christian doctrine. It was about, I forgot. I jumped one. But I'll go back to it. This video is for me. Y'all can enjoy, but it's for me. I just want to kind of record and talk. The nativity was about the birth of Christ. And it was about, the story was about this king that was foretold to come. And the night, we'll say, that the king, Jesus Christ, was due to be born, there was nowhere for, I'll just say, kind of shorten the story up, for his mother and father to rest or to go in order to have him. And so they end up having him, in short, in a manger. And so what is this story about Jesus Christ really about? The birth of Jesus Christ really about? Well, some things I guess I have to also cover a little bit. I didn't get to write any notes because I kept messing around with images and grandbabies and stuff. So, but also relative to the birth of Jesus Christ, that whole nativity story, is that there were three kings or three magi that traveled from great distance to come to celebrate the birth of Christ. And these three magi or three kings from different parts of the world, of different cultures or nationalities, came bearing gifts. Each of those gifts, I'm not going to go into detail, but they were natural resources. That's one thing. The next thing relative to the nativity or the birth of Christ story is that his mother and father followed, and as well, I mean, the Magi followed the I believe it was the northern star, but they call it the Christmas star or something like that. And so I just wanted to mention those things because it's relative, because it has to do with astrology. That Christmas star or that northern star, whatever it was, I can't really remember, is symbolic of astrological alignment. That's number one. So we're talking about a period in which the stars aligned and activated something in particular. And that's what we're going to talk about, the something in particular, which is represented with the birth of Christ. I believe that one of the three kings or the three magi was an astrologer. Just fun facts. So, what was the birth of Christ really about? The birth of Christ was really about the original consciousness, the original awareness about this physical world, and it is about physicality. And so Christ represented a time period way back then, supposedly, that the people were asleep, just like we are now. And so Christ was born in order to what? Let me read. And what am I going to read? I'm going to read a couple of scriptures from the Bible that let us know what Christ being born was about. And again, I'm not trying to convert anybody, just sharing and exploring and decoding. So, the first scripture I'm going to read so that we can see what Christ's role was, the reason that he was born, I don't even think that came out right, is in John 8:12. It reads, "Again Jesus spoke to them, saying, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." Brief interpretation, Jesus was saying, you can't see without me. You can't see without the consciousness that I'm going to bring to you, And so that's why Jesus was born originally, to wake up the people of that time period. He's the original consciousness. Don't go further. The darkness that Jesus was referring to in this particular scripture of John 8:12, where he says, whomever follows me will not walk in darkness. The darkness is a person living in this realm, being born in this realm, and being unaware of what this realm really consists of, and our reason for being here and things like that. It says, if you follow me, you will not be in that darkness. You will not be in a place of not knowing why you're here. You will not be in this place of not being aware of the sophisticated and intricate details about this physical world, and how you, person, are born into this world as a part of that balanced ecosystem, that self-contained ecosystem. Another scripture that lets us know why Jesus was born here, his purpose, is in John 14:6, where Jesus answered and said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Summarizing briefly just to get to the point, he says, I'm going to tell you the truth about what? This life. And you can't get any further without knowing it. So, the nativity scene, no matter where you see it, no matter who the artist is, it's all about the consciousness that had been lost before about this physical realm and about our significance here, our purpose here, is embodied in the any artwork that is that surrounds the subject matter of the nativity. Okay, I'm trying to get it together, y'all. I'm stumbling over my words. Moving on. The next artwork is, as you can see, is Jesus in Christianity, and you can see who the artist is. And this is an image of Jesus speaking to his disciples, his 11 disciples. So I'm assuming this is after, Judas betrayed Christ. And so whenever we see this particular subject matter conveyed or depicted in art, what is it really about? Well, by the time Jesus is sitting speaking with his disciples, he's an adult, and he is teaching them the ways of this world. He is making them aware of different things like their purpose here, making them aware about what this world really is, making them aware about what wealth is, about what how the social hierarchy is required. If you study the story of Jesus, you will see all of these things he was pointing out to anyone that followed him, especially his disciples. Now, if you look at this particular depiction of Jesus teaching or speaking, in this case to his disciples, you see that the figures, of course, Jesus, the main figure, as well as several others in the room, have halos around their heads. Now, back in the day when I was studying art history, I do believe when I say they, I'm just talking about professors, instructors, would just say, that suggests that a person is holy. But now that I'm seeing through a new filter, a new lens, a more conscious lens, I understand that the halos that are around Jesus' head, as well as those select disciples, represents they are conscious now. They are awakened. Anybody that has begun the awakening process, anyone that has become enlightened, there is like no going back. We hear it quite frequently, like here on YouTube, about going down a rabbit's hole. Once you go down a rabbit's hole and you unravel a mystery that you didn't even know was a mystery, you can never go back. And so the halo that again surrounds their head represents that they are enlightened, that they see the world for what it is. They see the corruption that is growing in their government at the time. They see the nature of man and the different beasts within. But that's going into other biblical stories when I start talking about the beasts within and things like that. So I hope it was just some things I wanted to share. I hope I remember. Now the next one is the Passion of Christ. Remember, I think Mel Gibson did the Passion. We're going to talk about the Passion. But before we talk about the Passion, I want to go back and talk a little bit about Jesus' parents. We know Jesus' parents as, at least a Christian knows Jesus' parents as Mary and Joseph. And Mary and Joseph, now none of these people do I believe were real people. They are characters created to convey a message. And so the message that Jesus' parents conveyed, we can come to understand through their names. Now my notes, of course, are on the other side of the room, so I'm going to try to go by memory. But Jesus' father's name is Joseph. And if I recall correctly, remember my notes are on the other side of the room, Joseph stands for, or meaning of his name is, it will be added. Something will be added. Is this suggestion of a continuous count, something being added. And then his mother, Mary, her name is an anagram for army. It was something else. My notes are on the other side, going on memory. But what I realized was that Jesus' parents, their symbolism represents that there would be an army of growing conscious people as a result of the birth of Christ, or the consciousness. I hope that makes sense. A while back I did some studies and I really broke down Jesus and Christ and all that. And what I found is that the name Jesus is not per se a name. I don't know what it's called as far as the part or whatever of the English language. But when I broke down Jesus, it talked about like the U.S. on the end is us, right? But it was talking about the enlightened or conscious us. Us is plural. So, how can I say this? Between Joseph's name, Mary's name, and Jesus' name, it suggests there is to be a growing army of conscious beings. I hope that makes sense. So, we know that just those three characters let us know that there is going to be a growing army of conscious beings. Now that's something you have to take my word for, because I don't have those notes anymore. Or you can go, of course, research it yourself. Then we have the birth of the consciousness. What is the consciousness about? It is about the awareness about this physical world and our reason for being in this world. It also has to do with the nature of man and all the different intricate details that we talk about relative to this physical existence. Then we move further and we find Jesus as an adult, in which he is now able to step out from under the wings of his parent and begin to minister to those, far and wide, spreading the words that lead to consciousness, spreading the information that leads to consciousness. And once one is conscious, they awake. And once they awake, they can do what? Ascend. We are going through the same process. All the ones with the halos represent those that have been awakened. Now on to the next image. And the next image or painting, as you can see, it is called the Passion of Christ. And hopefully you can see the artist below. That's kind of small. Maybe your eyes are better than mine. But I'll give an example of what the Passion of Christ was, in the story. As mentioned, I believe Mel Gibson helped to create the movie Passion. If you've ever saw that movie, that represents the Passion. The Passion of Christ is when he was beaten. It is when he had the throne of crown of thrones placed upon his head. When he was whipped. When he who Jesus Christ was nailed to the cross, and the wounds in his hands and his feet. And then when the sword was thrust into his side, that is Christ's passion. So, what does the Christ's passion have to do with us awakening now, having this time period once again to awaken. Well, the passion represents, how can I say, it's been subliminal, I'll say that, especially, particularly in the Catholic Church, Christian Church, for, again, hundreds of years. But it represents a person that comes up and goes against the government. And when a person goes against the government and they start to speak the truth, he's the truth and the life, remember. Excuse me, I burn these incense and they choke me up sometimes. So, when a person comes out of the masses, out of all the humans in existence at a time, and they begin to speak the actual truth, the literal truth about this physical world, about the divine structure that has been given to man in order to ensure that man is able to sustain himself for his appointed time. When a person steps up and teaches these things, because people have forgotten or do not know, the government will always rise up against them, torture them, torment them, destroy them. And so the passion is something that announces that, records that, and it reminds the masses that if you stand up to the government by teaching the truth about this realm and being the light to this realm, this is what will happen to that type of person. Okay? The next image, as you may be able to see, is the crucifixion of Christ. Crucifixion of Christ. Now, the crucifixion of Christ represents this display. Because remember, the actual passion of Christ is when the government and the military of that time got to take their frustration out on Jesus directly. That's when the government itself got to try our character, Jesus Christ, unjustly, and to execute excessive punishment upon this person that was speaking truth and bringing light into the world. Why was Christ doing it? To free up the congregation or the people of the time from the the control, I'll say, for lack of better words, can't think, of the government. And so that was their fun, that was their payback, that was their venting. Then the crucifixion comes. How is the crucifixion relevant to us awakening at this point in time? And remember, for hundreds of years, these types of artwork have existed. And so they're like subliminal messages. These sculptures and paintings and etches and different things like that, whether it is during the Renaissance period, classical period, doesn't matter. Whether it's through mythology, it is all subliminal messages that dig down, I could say, into our subconscious, and over hundreds of years, centuries, has caused us personally to suppress and or reject the enlightenment, the awakening, the information. Reject the information. If you reject the information, you cannot be awakened. If you cannot awaken, you cannot have enlightenment. If you do not have enlightenment, you cannot have the ascension. And so, again, before there were TVs and iPhones and iPads and different things like that, there was art. There was art. And art was used as a subliminal means to suppress or to incite fear in what? The congregation or the people. And so the story goes on. After the government gets to be or brutally punish Christ in their own personal space, then they actually take Christ out amongst the people and amongst the congregation, and they display his emaciated, starved, deprived, brutally beaten body in front of everybody, especially those that followed him, those that laid on the cusp of being awakened but had yet to do so, but they were on their way. They struck fear in them by displaying Christ's body. Then it was those that were enlightened, that knew what they had to do. They understood the divine structure that had been given to man, the orders, and what they had to do in order to to rebalance this their existence during their time. All good money's working for thus. What that? Money's working for thus Thursday. For Thursday, working for Thursday. Oh, good. I'm confused, Johnny. But whatever you say, it is the truth. And the light. And the life. How y'all doing? So, the body of Christ, the emaciated body of Christ, is displayed before the people in the congregation in order to incite fear. Fear of what? Moving forth with what they learned once they have gained the enlightenment. And they could see this realm. And they began to understand the structures, like the global social hierarchy I spoke of when I did the pyramid video. They began to understand and to see. They began to understand and see the corruption that was growing at the time. And so these people, the next move once you are awakened, enlightened, and then you ascend, but you can only ascend through your actions. So the next process was for the people to act. And what they would have had to do was fall in line with divine order. Now, if I go into divine order and divine law, I'll be here all day, all night. But the one example I gave is when I did the live stream the other day about the pyramids. That's one of the divine orders. But when they saw Christ up there, they hadn't seen him in a while. 1 minute Christ was healthy, the character Christ was healthy, full of life. The next time they saw Christ, he had been brutally beaten. Could you imagine the crown of thorns in his head, pricking him, nails through his hands and feet? That is torment on the highest degree. And so even those that were enlightened would not move forward in their ascension. I hope I made that make sense. Next time I do it on the other channel, Heaven's Vital Fire, and I forgot what I was going to say. Anyway. Alright, the next image is the entombment of Christ. Once again, the imagery, the artwork does not belong to me. It is from Whack Media, and the artist is below. I can't see it. Hopefully you can. I was trying to follow all the guidelines. Hopefully I did a significant job not to be penalized. Anyway, the entombment of Christ. Before I go into the entombment of Christ, this image and what it depicts to us as viewers, I want to go back and talk about how when I did the studies last year, or whatever it was, or the year before, about Christ and His name and things like that, how it talked about how us will become conscious, us will become enlightened, us who are consciously aware of the reality of this physical world will be the light of the world, right? So now we're here with the entombment of Christ. What does this really represent? The entombment of Christ represents, like, once Christ, the consciousness, Christ is merely just consciousness, awareness, knowledge, having the information, being in the knowing. That's what Christ is. Once Christ is representatives of that carry that kind of energy, is beaten, abused, starved for the satisfaction of those that this type of person offends. In this case, Christ, offended the government. Then they are displayed before those that, heard the teachings or followed the teachings or gained enlightenment. And then after that, what happens? Everybody's quiet. Christ, or the consciousness, that information, that knowing, is shoved down into a vault. Shoved down into a vault and covered over to be forgotten. The entombment of Christ represents the period in which humanity has forgotten the truth. They don't have the knowledge. This entombment of Christ phase is what we're coming out of now. Had not some force higher and more powerful than ourselves began to awaken us, we would still be in the tomb, in the dark. The next one, and I love this one. Again, I have a link to where I found this particular image. But all of these images, again, have been painted, sculpted, etched, sketched by many, many artists from many, many regions. So you can find different representations or depictions of these various artworks. And these are just a few, of course. Now this one is the Pieta. I love this one. This is beautiful. I wish I could really blow it up. But what we have here is Mother Mary supposedly holding the Christ after he is taken off of the cross before he's entombed. And so the Pieta, remember, Mary represents the army. Remember, the name Mary, the anagram of Mary is army. Army of what? Army of the enlightened ones, the ones that have been awakened, the ones that are now ascending, or during that time period, ascending and awakening. So Mary is an embodiment of all that heard Christ's message and were changed. And so she, that army, holds Christ, holds the consciousness dead in their hands. What does that represent? Remember, the slide before was the entombment of Christ. The entombment of Christ, right? Once the entombment occurred, meaning the hiding away of the truth, of the information that will bring about enlightenment, once that is hushed up by the government, then those that, remember, it's this group that was on the verge of enlightenment, but they didn't get there. Those particular people can just slide back in to their subconsciousness and be led like sheep. But remember, when you are a person that has gone down a rabbit hole and you have uncovered a mystery or a secret that you didn't even know exists, you can never go back. your conscious is forever changed. So the Pietà to me represents those people that became aware, that became a conscious, that were knowledgeable, that were ready to ascend until they slaughtered Jesus Christ, the consciousness, or the person that was ready to execute change in the world. Execute change means it goes against the established system. So now we have the Pietà, Mother Mary, who represents the army of people that have been changed, that were ready to go ahead and ascend. Now just sits there and holds that dead like dream, holds the secrets, knows what's in the rabbit's hole, knows what is in the what's in the subconscious is where, but can do nothing at all, because they're too afraid to do so. Why? Because the same thing that happened to Christ, the passions, would happen to them. And so they just hold tightly, and somewhat like, what's the word? You know, it's like this, I don't know the word, he's like loving, you know, that they are conscious, loving, that they possess the knowing, and that they're not deceived anymore. They can see through the illusion, but yet too afraid to move. And so it's just the love. The Pietà represents this love for the consciousness, for the truth. And it also is this love for the light, knowing like you found the answer. You can see clearly, but again, too afraid to move. The next slide, and the final slide, this is a very short live stream, is I see is glitching. Yeah, short video. I'm just sharing. This last slide is the resurrection of Christ, and this is the phase that we are in. We're in the phase of the resurrection of Christ. Remember, Christ, I don't believe, was a real human being. He's a representation of those that have come in and out of the timeline in the history of humanity, that could see the corruption, that can see the real intricate details about our reality and existing in this reality. These are people that have come and gone throughout the timeline of humanity and have been able to see into the nature of man. These are people that remember their soul, or can sense their soul, or have a connection with their own soul as well as divinity. And the resurrection of Christ represents the time period after all that has taken place that I've talked about thus far. From the consciousness disappearing from this world, to it, those that have it, it's being beat out of them, or they've been, manipulated into releasing or not accepting the messages that bring consciousness, and therefore enlightenment, and therefore the opportunity to ascend. The life of Christ shows us that this cycle that we're going through is not new. We're here once again to this resurrection of Christ. This is should have looked up a synonym for the word resurrection, but I did not. This is the resurrection of consciousness. This is our opportunity, our time to shine. And what we learn from the story of Jesus Christ, one, is that this is not new. This process is not new. This is not the first time humanity has been granted mercy and an opportunity to awaken. This is not the first time in the history of humanity that there have been people that have come into this world and saw through what they call the veil, that dove down the rabbit hole and moved to spread their awareness to others, to only be, say, molded down by the powers that be. One thing we can learn from the story of Jesus Christ is that it's for it to continue to reoccur. It suggests that this process will almost like it will continue until we get up the courage to stand up against the powers that be and rise, and rise up and ride, the wave of consciousness. I hope I made that make sense. But this is the resurrection of Christ. I just want to make sure that I'm clear. You are clear. I'm saying it clear. That the resurrection of Christ, this imagery, is just a suggestion of consciousness prevailing over darker energies. That the truth will come into being, whether it is now or if it's later. Consciousness, the true consciousness, the true information and understanding that humanity needs will eventually rise. Hope that made sense. Y'all tell me how y'all like that. This is kind of what I want to take over to the new channel. Decoding different artworks, and I want to go in detail. I think I'm gonna just do one thing at a time, because I would like to cover like the Dante's Inferno, different things like that. I was a big Michelangelo fan. I love to do the Sistine Chapel. That'll be really nice. And just to start decoding things. And I like decoding the artwork and going back to old biblical scriptures, because I just remember when I was in school, it was nothing like, I just kind of interpreted that I learned. That it was nothing like that. When I was in the church, what I was being taught was nothing like what I have come to know now. It's nothing like it. And so I find myself interested in going back to where I was some 20 years ago and looking at it through this new filter of mine. So y'all let me know. And don't forget to go over to Heaven's Vital Fire and subscribe. Over at Heaven's Vital Fire is where I will be releasing that secret message to select people. And so you do need to be subscribed over there. Probably I may have it up by next week, but my mind has been really overwhelmed and congested with a lot of information, a lot of thoughts, and getting a lot of downloads. So I'm kind of cloudy headed now. I'm in that airhead state. I'm an Aquarius, an air sign, and I'm in that airhead state right now. And I've been trying to fight it off, but the different downloads I was getting wouldn't stop, and so it just has gotten overwhelming for me. So I'm gonna have to figure something out, because it's real, to be perfectly honest, it's real heavy. It's real heavy. It was something else, another message that I got. It's so many that to my mind has gotten clouded and literally, like we were saying, glitched up on me, because it's just been so much coming through. And so the last few live streams I made, I want to do little brief summaries of what I was getting. At some points in time, I'll be channeling information, and is not clear. It comes in staticky. How you doing? Hi, Acoustic Soul. How are you? What's going on for you? What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to end this live stream, and then I'm going to set up to read some tarot cards, because I'm not sleepy. Oh yeah, it's just a little bit before 11. And so I'm going to take a 5-minute bathroom break. I'll be right back. If you have any burning questions, feel free to compose them. And when I bring up this the next live stream, just join right on in. I thank you all for dropping by here to CanAngelsFlyTarot and more. Once again, I ask you to like, share, and if you haven't already, subscribe. And if you subscribe, remember to tap the bell. You might be notified when I go live. And if you're ever interested in ordering your own personal tarot reading, because I'm a tarot reader, even though I do all this other stuff. Got to keep myself entertained, and you too. If you're ever interested in ordering your own personal tarot reading, just contact me at my email. My email is CanAngelsFly CanAngelsFly1 at gmail.com. Yep, CanAngelsFly1 at gmail.com. And if you would like to submit a love offering, just look below this live stream or any video I make for my PayPal me link or my, what is that other thing called? Cash App. I'm going to get it together eventually, y'all. I'll be back in about 5 minutes. Bye.